Welcome into the Official Jets podcast.
Dangling a steak in front of a lion and you ain't got no cage in between you. He gonna get to that steak.
So let's go inside the matchup.
A motivated Aaron Rodgers is a dangerous Aaron Rodgers.
Game day and every day, score a jewelry touchdown with Kendra Scott. Shop fashion and fine jewelry fit for another winning season at your local store or at kendrascott.com. Shine bright, do good with Kendra Scott.
Happy New Year's to you.
Happy New Year's. What's your resolution?
I don't have any resolutions. Do you have any?
Yeah, to keep my hair.
I think your hair looks okay.
Hey, man. I'd be happy to sit up there, put my coconut oil and stuff.
You're still a young guy.
No, I know more, man. You know what's crazy? I was sitting there and I was watching the George Foreman story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn. I'm only 1 year younger than he was when he won a championship. Remember how we looked at George? We looked at George like an old grandpa. He had his pants all up to his tummy and stuff like that. I'm like, damn, I'm 1 year younger than when he won the title.
Michael Moore?
Yes. I'm like, man, so like technically I'm like an old dude now. Like, remember how we used to look at 44, 45 back in the day?
Well, we were just talking about it before. Like when you go back and look at old games and you see the player snapshot up there and like a rookie out of Penn State. The dude who was 21 or 22 years old about 25 years ago, he looks like he was 40.
Yeah, man, rookies used to be different. Remember Greg Oden came in. Greg Oden came out the womb as a teenager.
Yeah, nuts. So no resolutions.
Then keep my hair.
Okay, so that's one.
It's a fight that keeps
all right, that's fine.
At least I'm not crowning that.
Jets season is ending Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. It's that late slot. Do you make anything of, hey, potentially you can be a spoiler against a division rival? Because what's at hand here for the Dolphins is they need the Chiefs to beat the Broncos. If that happens, Miami can go to the postseason with the win over the Jets.
Yeah, just think, Miami's flying high saying, hey, listen, look what all we've been through. We lost our starting quarterback and we still have an opportunity to get in the tournament. And we get in the tournament, who knows? And you're like, no.
Yeah.
If I'm not going, you're not going. Like, you may make your reservation for Cabo a little later than me, but trust me, you going to Cabo too. And, like, that's what the motivation is. And the motivation also is like, hey, this is our last game maybe ever. You got guys like Tyron Smith, who knows what Morgan Moses want to do. He's battled like a champion, throughout the entire year. But, he may decide to retire. So you always want to show respect to the last guys who games it could be the last game they ever play. You want them to remember, hey, man, my last game I won. You want to have respect for guys.
What, are you literally talking about that in the locker room with other guys?
Yeah,
seriously.
I remember when it was Deion Sanders' last game that he was ever going to play. We went out there like, let's just have fun for prime.
No, for that. But I'm saying as far as keeping Miami out of the postseason.
Absolutely.
Come on. Well,
absolutely. We went out huddle like, yeah. Y'all think y'all going somewhere? Y'all ain't going nowhere.
Okay.
Like, just think how Miami has kind of rubbed it in over the last couple of years.
Well, the Jets should have beat them in that first meeting down there.
Exactly. But how Tyreek Hill hit us with the Jets? Yeah. All those little memes and stuff, like when he flirted with coming here but used us for all that, man. All that. Yeah. How many playoff games have you won since you've been down there, Tyreek? Yeah, you ain't going to the playoffs this year, too. Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Okay, so you're rooting for, if you're a Jet, you're rooting for the Chiefs to win because you want to be the person responsible or the team responsible. We shut the door on you guys.
But also, like, listen, I hate everybody.
Yeah.
I know I can't do nothing to hate on the Chiefs. But I want the Broncos because we should have beat y'all with the field goal.
Right.
So, like, I want you to lose, too, because
Yeah.
I don't want y'all to be happy. So, listen, remember what Sean Payton said about us. So, I'm like, man, forget you. I know my boy Franklin Myers there, but I don't give a damn. Hell no, I ain't going. We can meet at Cabo.
Yo, how crazy would that be if, Kansas City in the reserves, you think they're going to play a lot of the regulars?
Well,
because you have to. You can't play.
Outside of guys like Chris Jones, but Kalafis and like all the young guys, like you got to play Xavier Worthy.
Right.
Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy that's going to have to play. Maybe Kelsey's not going to play. But their backup tight end, I forget his name, Noah Gray been putting in work this year.
Yeah, right. So, Kansas City beats the Denver Broncos in Denver.
And Miami all hype. We got a shot. So win and win. Win and win, baby.
So then the Jets beat Miami, that means the door would be open for Joey Burrow.
Yeah, see,
if Cincinnati beats Pittsburgh.
Yeah, see, I got less hate for them. Like, because, listen, they over there. I ain't got nothing to do with them. I rarely see them, whatever. But I tell you what, the Bengals get in, they'll be a super dangerous team with their ability to score points. Baltimore don't want to see them.
Nobody wants to see them.
And then if they get in, then they mean they beat the Steelers. The Steelers don't want to see them.
They would probably play Buffalo.
Yeah, Josh Allen don't want to see him.
Right.
Remember what he's went up to Orchard Park and won. That don't affect him.
Right.
And and Kansas City don't want to see him.
So how difficult is it for you as a player to get up, dust yourself off after what happened in Buffalo? I was talking to a number of players in the locker room about it, and Quincy Williams said straight up, this was a piss-poor performance from us.
Well, you feel the game is about moments.
Yeah.
Right? And it can get out of hand really quickly, and it did. Because, you had the 2 turnovers. It was 12-0 going into halftime.
Yeah, turnover on downs.
Right,
And then,
but that should have been like a 10-12 game going into halftime. And it just kind of snowballed. And sometimes it happens. Like this happens, a turnover, this happens, stuff like that, blown play, or whatever. But, the first half wasn't indicative of the defense playing at a bad pace, but it's just what happens when things go wrong and you've been losing all year. You just think that they're going to continue to go bad, opposed to when things, when you're winning, things go bad. You think, no, we're going to turn it around because we always turn it around.
Right.
So it's like the whole belief system thing.
Complimentary football too, right?
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
fans hate hearing that, but there is something to be said for that, because if you do have points on those first 2 possessions where
You're feeling good about yourself. The energy is electric. You're like, oh, man, you're feeling good.
Yeah.
It's game's about momentum.
And defensively, when you go in and you're playing okay, you had a number of penalties on that first drive, but you go into the break and you're down 12-0. How deflating is that? Even though your offense was able to move the ball a little bit again, but not finish.
Well, that's what it is. It's like disappointing. But, when you make the decision to say, hey, we're going to go for the jugular, and, when you got, points potentially there, it's always tough. And I know it was windy and elements and all that type of stuff. But sometimes it's good, like a basketball player, to see the ball go through the hoop.
Right.
And just to see, like, the scoreboard turn sometimes can just be enough to, like, give you a little bit of momentum.
Okay, so how can the Jets get the ball through the hoop this week against the Dolphins?
It's the same thing we've been saying all day, and I'm sure it'd be the mantra for the entire year. You got to finish.
Yeah.
Like, it's great to move the football. It's great to have the yards, the first downs, and be in rhythm. But you got to finish, man. And, that's what you got to do. And so this week, you start with finishing, attention to detail, right? Because it gets more difficult the closer you get because there's less space. So it's easier for the defense to defend. So you got to figure out a way how to get into the end zone.
No surprise for you late in that ball game when Aaron Rodgers came out. At that point, 40-0.
Yeah, because I feel like it was late in the game, and it's at that point, it's a zero-sum game, and Tyrod deserved the opportunity to play a little bit. You know what I mean? He's been here and going through the due diligence and
Consummate professional.
Yeah, doing everything for a whole season. And it's good to allow the fans and allow people to see what he looks like. And he looked damn good.
So we're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers here later this week. We're taping New Year's Eve. It is Tuesday. I imagine he'll go talk on McAfee and then talk to the media here Wednesday like he typically does at One Jets Drive. What do you think is going through his head as he just focuses on this game, knowing of all the speculation that continues to swirl as far as what his future looks like here, maybe retirement, maybe somewhere else?
I mean, well, like right now, you just need to, finish what's ahead of you. Finish strong, finish through the line. And then, like, you need time to decompress, right? I'm sure coming off of an injury, going into training camp, all that type of stuff, it's been a long year, like for him, like because coming off an injury and having to rehab and stuff is almost like when rookies come out and they got the combine right after that. It's been a long year because he didn't get a break. He's been rehabbing, fighting to get here, going through the OTAs and all to get to this point. And it didn't finish the way that he wanted to. The performance wasn't where he wanted to be. The wins and losses wasn't where he wanted to be. So you got to kind of absorb that. You got to digest that first. then you got to see if you have the strength to be able to put the effort that it takes to play at a high level. This will be his first offseason in a year and a half that he can just train. He can take his proper rest, that he can actually train and not worry about the injury. It'll be a year removed. And then he has to decide if his body feels good enough, if the Jets and him can come together on a deal to make this work, and what his future looks like.
Just as a guy who put the body on the line, like yourself, play in between those white lines, how much credit do you give Rodgers just for the comeback from Achilles to now make his 17th consecutive start at 41 years old?
Yeah, and we know he was being banged up, and maybe hindsight's 2020. Maybe he should have, they should have did a better job in, being able to allow him to rest. Maybe, I think if he would go back, on those short weeks, especially the Jets started off how a lot of teams ended. 3 games in 11 days. We saw that with Baltimore, Houston, Kansas City, and I believe on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Right. But the Jets had that early in the season. And I think maybe, if they look at it, maybe he should have rested. Tyron Smith should have rested too. And with that being said, I think he has to reassess and go back and say, you know what, maybe I got a lot more in me, and only he knows if he's willing to pay the price. But that's a process that all players go through. Tyron's going to have to go through that. Morgan's going to have to go through that. When you get to this age, it's like a year-to-year deal.
What was it like for you when it became a year-to-year thing?
Well, what never did for me, I got injured.
Yeah.
I got injured, and I probably wasn't going to be back cleared in enough time. And, the Jets had let me go. And I had all intentions in being able to go and play, but then, I got the TV opportunity. I was like, well, I'll just take a year off with all intentions on going back.
You really did?
Yeah, I was going to go back. Like, I'd never stopped training. I was like, oh, man. Because just think, I went 11 years without missing a game. I mean, I missed that one game in Miami, but, I had played something like 180 consecutive games, going all the way back to my second year in NFL. So, a lot of times players' careers are extended because they get injured. And I know that sounds weird, but their careers extended because they get injured and they don't get the wear and tear. I just played.
That's interesting.
I just played.
So you on IR after 4 weeks, 6 weeks?
Yeah. I went through the wear and tear.
Yeah.
Right, where I just never got a break. So you get exhausted and your body's just inflamed, and you got all these little injuries, and then you got the main injury. So the toe was one injury, but my shoulder, my knee, and all this stuff was stuff that I have been battling through for years, right, and managing for years, my wrist. And so I thought, maybe, take a year off. Body felt good because, when we don't play football, and guys figure this out in the first year when they retire, usually you train, you work hard, and then you play, and then everything you did, goes to bed because, it gets knocked off as soon as you get hurt. Well, when you just a spectator, you get it's no season, so you can just train for a whole year.
Right.
Hey, when's the last time I never trained for a whole year. I always had some type of sports season. So your body feel good. You're like, man, I feel strong. That's why when you see guys like, man, I think I'm gonna come back. It's like the quickest way for somebody to unretire is the first year that they walk away. It's like, man, I feel good.
Yeah.
You go out there to
Well,
practice.
you always told me when you were a player, and we've been doing this for a long time together, that you're going to play until everything falls apart. You compared it to a car.
Yeah, man.
The tire is going over here.
Yeah.
The power steering doesn't work here. The engine's starting to go.
Yeah.
You were going to go until...
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of athletes have to deal with. It's funny because Andre Ward has a podcast now, and he was talking to Roy Jones, and he was like, man, does it ever go away, bro? He's like, man, it's been 7 years, and it's like, I think he's starting to tease maybe he might want to come back and fight because he still trains, he still does all the stuff. And when it's when it's in you, it's in you.
Would you ever want to go out that tunnel again right now?
No, I mean, at this point, it's a wrap for me.
Right. No, I know that, but I'm just saying, do you ever go to the stadium on Sunday morning and smell everything, look at people tailgating, and then watch the guys coming out of the tunnel?
No, sometimes I have dreams that I'm going to the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I swear to God. I've at least 10 to 15 of them where I feel like it's the season. It's like, oh, man, I got to go play. And I dream about me playing football. Like coming out of the tunnel, I feel like I'm in a game.
Excitement.
Yeah, but like no, a real dream. Like I'm a football. Like I'm still playing.
Right.
Now I wake up thinking I got to go to practice. I'm like, man, you tripping?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it never goes.
It's
away.
interesting when you look at a guy like Rodgers, now LeBron too. I mean, obviously totally different athletes, but elite. Two of the best who've ever played their games. LeBron said the other day that he thinks that he could play 5 to 7 more years.
Yeah. But when I've been around great players, what they ask themselves is, at what cost?
Yeah.
Like when you look at guys like Vince Carter was fine not being half man, half amazing. Like will LeBron or ever feel like, hey, I'm coming off the bench, like Carmelo. Like will he ever want to? Because that's a humbling experience when you used to be that guy, and like now you're like, oh yeah, I'll come off the bench.
Right.
Like I think when you're in an argument for the greatest of all time, I think that's a hard pill to swallow. Like when you're a guy that's been good, like Vince Carter, like Carmelo, who was considered a Hall of Famer, yes, but not like on the Mount Rushmore of greatest players of all time. That's a harder pill to swallow.
The Official Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Shop game day ready jewelry styles and so much more at kendrascott.com.
So it's going to be a lot for Rodgers to digest. He really hasn't had the ability to take a step back at all.
The thing is, like, if he comes and continues to play, it's not like he's going to be a backup.
No.
So it's not like he's going to that. Like a guy like Flacco that was a Super Bowl MVP saying, I'll be a backup and bounce around. Like that's a different vibe. Like did Phillip Rivers do that? No, I don't even think Phillip Rivers is still the starter.
Yeah. So interesting next few days for the Jets' entire organization because you play the Dolphins. It's baggy day on Monday. And then these GM and head coaching searches are going to really heat up. We're going to be hearing names left and right. And you got to have a comprehensive search, extensive, because this organization really wants to get it right and gives themselves an opportunity to have continuity moving forward.
Yeah. Well, the last time they were in a coaching search was 5 years ago, right? Or was it 6? Did Saleh
Saleh was hired January 14, 2021. Yep.
Was it 4 seasons?
4 seasons.
Wow.
Yep.
Joe was 6.
Yes, correct.
Gotcha.
Joe came in before Robert.
Yeah, you definitely want to get it. He was under Gay, so you definitely want to get it right. Because you don't want to keep doing this.
Right.
And you want to be able to have a program that can grow. You look at guys like Andy Reid. You look at guys like Mike Tomlin. You look at guys like Harbaugh. You're allowed to allow the program. It's really easy to have a culture when somebody's been there for 5 years. At this point, I think Harbaugh's been there. He got there in 2008.
No, double check on that.
2008.
But yeah, he's been there north of 15.
Yeah, because he was there and I came here in 2009. So
right.
He was there, yeah. So, Mike Tomlin a little bit before that. Like, that's when you really inject a culture, right? Because that culture needs to be in place for a while. Like now, I don't remember the Chiefs having a culture before Andy Reid got there.
Right.
But he's been there for so long that the culture can stay. And now at this point, because the culture's so good, it's going to be hard to tear that culture down because his influence is all through that building.
Well, we were talking about it, myself and somebody else, a colleague the other day, that you look at those organizations like Baltimore. Do you attribute it more to Harbaugh, or do you go to Ozzie and say, Ozzie's kind of the start of this? Because it goes all the way back to the days of Billick, correct?
Yeah, it's rare, right? Because I feel like Steve Bisciotti enhanced the culture, right? Because, his infrastructure, but also like the continuity.
Yep.
Like I said, I go over there and I still see the same people cooking the eggs that was there before. And you see that over here. I come here, I see Rosie, Renardo, Juan, guys are still here. It's like that's important. You know what I mean? People that are staples, right? Like Val is still there. She's been there for 20 years. You know what I mean? That's important. Consistency, continuity, right? And you have to build that. And, when you look at like I said, Kansas City, that culture, and you look at what Harbaugh is doing, he's going to leave a culture. And when you have an opportunity to really plant a seed then everybody starts to think that way. So even if the guy who was the big part of setting the culture isn't there anymore, the culture remains.
Right.
Because they know that this is how success looks. Right. So you have to maintain, like, when people that help set the culture leave, like, so Ozzy's gone. He's been gone.
Of course.
Right. And like now Eric DeCoste is there. Right. But the culture remains. So it becomes a standard, and you have to be able to, like, it takes time. And you have to be consistent with it, and you have to make sure that you continue to let it grow.
Is there a lesson there in what your hometown team has been able to do?
Absolutely.
The Lions?
Because they changed their culture, right?
Right.
And it took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while.
Because it doesn't happen overnight, and you
Buffalo was a joke.
right.
Like, Buffalo was homecoming.
So I wanted to ask you about Buffalo too, is because they hired McDermott first, and then they went out looking for a GM, and they ended up hiring Brandon Beane, who worked with McDermott in Carolina. So there was a past relationship there. When you look at the Jets' searches, how important is it that these guys have some kind of relationship going in?
Relationships can be developed. It's hard for me to say that it's one way to do something.
Yeah.
But we know that going in with trust and belief makes it easier, right? I don't know if Dan Campbell had a relationship with the general manager from, I think he was at New England before. I don't know if he had a relationship with him. So it can be developed, and it can be a pre-existing relationship.
So you need guys to actually have confidence in their plans, but also be malleable. But also there has to be a great working relationship between everybody at the top.
We're all on the same team.
Right.
And we're all trying to pull the rope the same way. And you may not always agree with what I said, but understand that it's coming from the right place. So you should want it to be successful. You shouldn't want it to fail because you want to say that your way was right. Like, we can always adjust plans, but we got to realize that we're all in this together. Like, my success is your success, and your success is my success.
Is this an exciting time for the Jets organization when you're talking about starting anew after just going through the pains of this season? You've been here. You played here. You've made your home here. You work in the media here. There was so much expectation heading to the end of 2024, and now as we enter the final week, the Jets are sitting there 4-12.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, and but if you give up and you just give into it, then it's not going to change. You got to go in with the energy and the passion to say, listen, this is the time where we're going to fix it, because eventually you'll be right. So you got to go in there and say, hey, what can we learn from the mistakes? What went into some of the hires and decisions that we made that didn't work out? Because if you repeat the same thing, that's a true definition of insanity if you expect a different result.
I feel awful for the fan base, and I've always said this, and I think people roll their eyes at it because where I get my checks from, but Woody Johnson is committed to putting a winner on the field. He wants it just as bad as anybody who's going to the stadium on Sunday or buying a sweatshirt or, taking their kid out to training camp. He wants it bad.
Yeah, it's never been a lack of want to, right? And sometimes, you can want something a lot, but it doesn't guarantee it. So you just have to say, listen, how do I get it right? Like I said, it's many examples of many organizations that flipped it, that didn't have it together for a while, you know what I mean? And they figured it out. And you just keep, you keep swinging, you keep getting up, you keep analyzing, you keep getting all the information you can do to be a high percentage decision maker.
All right, so let's get inside the game. Jets, Dolphins, schematically wise, the Jets moved the ball big time against the Dolphins in that first meeting. They should have won if we go back to that late game situation when they had the ball. Garrett wasn't a huge game. You're talking about Devontae. Breece Hall didn't even play that first meeting. Dolphins, though, when you look at them statistically, their defense has been pretty sound this year, but the Jets got after them in the first meeting.
Yeah, I mean, styles make fights, and certain teams you may have better matchups with, right?
Garrett got after Jalen Ramsey that first meeting,
right? And now you look at Devontae's more locked in as well, so you pick your poison that way. I think Breece should get some touches, in the pass game, but also running the ball, right? And you have to mix it up. Right? This is a team that has good players, but, I think they still, lack at the linebacker position.
Right.
Opportunities. They don't have, great defensive tackles. They got Calais Campbell, who's a mountain of a man, still playing at a high level. I still don't know if I think they held on to him because it was reports that they were going to release him so he can get picked up.
I know, I saw that.
Somebody. But now when they legitimately have Calais, so now it's like, let's hold on to him.
Yeah, you better.
I wonder what happens because you can't release him after this game. So I know he's like, man.
We better win.
Yeah, exactly.
Defensively, Jets are going against Dolphins. Tua did not play last week.
Right.
Tyler Huntley played. What kind of changes do you anticipate from the Jets? Because you know that Tua is not going to take off. Once in a while,
Well,
scramble, but he's going to get down.
Yeah, exactly. With his history.
But Huntley, he's a threat on the ground. He got into the end zone last week against the Browns, and he can keep plays alive.
Yeah, I mean, that just tells you what you can and can't do. Sometimes you can't go cover one because he sees that he's just going to take off. So you got to maybe have a spy there for him. Yeah, you got to understand that the RPO game, he's a legitimate threat to keep the ball if you don't pay him any attention. You just flatten it down to the dive play or the run play. So you got to be able to, have a plan for him. And so it creates more preparation time.
Would you zone it up more back end?
Well, you can zone it up, but when you go man, you still want to be able to get hands on guys and have help over the top and see if you can stop this run game with a light box. But you want to be able to have multiple people out there so that if he does that, you make him play.
I know people are looking ahead, but I just wanted to ask you from a game plan perspective. The Dolphins got after the Jets with their screen game in that first meeting.
Yeah.
What do the Jets have to do as a counter? Because we saw that especially in overtime. Jonnu Smith didn't do anything throughout those first four quarters. Then he took over the game in the fifth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, and, they may start the game off that way, right? Because, tight ends are usually, big mismatches because of their size and speed. And also his ability, like really the biggest thing and the theme of the year for me has been, when you're a blocker and you get beat, you turn around and become the receiver. Right, so it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. If you're a defender, because you feel like you need to bull rush your opponent because if you just beat him off the bat, he just turns around and becomes a wide open guy. Yeah, so I feel like you maybe have to switch it up, have guys on the second level that's responsible for him. You got to have good eyes because you saw the other day. I mean, even yesterday, you saw Laporta with the Lions, and you saw Kittle sneaking out trying to block and then holding. We used to call it the old it play. And, guys are kind of just doing that in throwback because they're saying, go ahead, beat me. Guys, so you don't know what to do. You don't know, do I hit him? Do I hold on to him?
So what are you doing?
I'm making sure that the person that's responsible for him is the person behind him. That if I'm going man-to-man, I got somebody for him. I don't have somebody I don't want you, like we used to call it green dog. I don't really want you green dogging, because I rather you be able to, from distance, to kind of see the whole picture because if you get too close to it, sometimes you forget it. And a lot of these big plays has been one of those block. Oh, let me go get the quarterback. Oh, you beat me. Or you beat them legitimately. They catch the ball and then they run for 40 yards because everybody else is tied up man-to-man. This guy's running. Nobody knows he even has the ball.
Which Dolphin can't get off in this game? Tyreek, Waddle, Achane, Smith? Which guy are you circling?
I would say Achane because if you can't stop the run, then you got to put more resources. That opens up for everybody because that means now you got 8 men in the box and it's creating all these outside one-on-ones. You don't want that with this team. It has way too much speed.
Kind of a weird atmosphere do you expect Sunday? More imperative than ever for the Jets to get on them.
Yeah, well, you think that they're going to be fighting for their lives. Yeah. Especially if what happens, what we think is going to happen happens. So I think the Jets have to get out to a fast start, keep the crowd out of it. But, this is going to be a 4-quarter fight for sure.
4-quarter fight. Well, I'm not going to fight you right now.
Go bring me back, though.